Welcome to part 3 of my Ender.io mod guide for MC1710. It is an Ender.io bonanza of information. So, we have our test facilities. We're making a lot of progress. This is still going. About 1 point, it's a little over 1.2 million now and still trucking along. It still has a lot of coal to burn through. I actually think that thing might fill that up. That 5 million RF, you know, if you just let it run while you're not using any of the machines and build up the backstock, there's a lot of power that can be generated by one coal generator, one Stirling generator. So I didn't cover the liquid pipes very, very heavily previously in the conduit section. Why did I not do that? Here's why. These pressurized fluid conduits, this is the bottom end, right? We get some of this. This is basically, it's quite clear glass. That's why I showed you how to make that. You make it in the alloy smelter with sand. And conduit binder, it makes 8. Really, really good. That is basically this. Once you start filling it up with fluid, it keys itself to a specific kind of a fluid. So once you start pumping water through that pipe, it thinks that it always wants to have water, and it'll fill itself up with water, which means you can only do one fluid per pipe. If you ever want to empty a line of conduit, just right-click on it with an empty bucket. Or shift right click, I think. I can't remember, one of those two. Pressurized fluid conduit. This stuff's a little different. It can actually, yeah, I think it moves fluid a little faster, for one thing. Let me see. Yeah, see, extraction is 50 millibuckets per tick. Max IO is 200. This is, so it'll move a maximum of 200 buckets per tick. This is, oh, and this is also very gravity susceptible, dependent upon the viscosity. It's very complicated stuff, but you'll see exactly what I talked to when you start running some pipes around your base and you start piping water through it. You'll see where water will settle in the lower pipes, almost like plumbing in real life. Pressurized conduit, it pulls out faster, twice as fast. It moves twice as much as a maximum IO. Then there's this great new stuff called Ender fluid conduit. Pressurized fluid conduit, by the way, is fused quartz, which is blast-resistant glass, basically. You make fused quartz by just putting some nether quartz in the alloy smelter. Yet again, the alloy smelter comes to the rescue. Fused quartz plus conduit binder. Oh, by the way, you can actually make enlightened fused glass. I think. Yeah, enlightened. So you can make enlightened blast-resistant glass for your house. I think that's cool. Why should all nuclear bomb shelters be dark and dingy? Let's light them up. Anyway, this stuff is a little bit more hefty. It is some fused quartz, one vibrant alloy, and some conduit binder yet again for Ender fluid conduit, which I think is cool. And you get 8 at a go. That's pretty good. And those amounts, you're getting 8 per recipe. You can actually configure that. And almost anything else in this mod, you can reconfigure in the actual configuration files. Ender.io is so adjustable, and so... Why do I have a cobalt infestation? So help. Okay. That's it. Come here, you. Bye. Sneak attack. And... What is that? Okay, that's a little weird. I'm going to leave that alone. Okay. So yeah, that's scary. I'm going to put that away now before I do something weird with it. So there's 3 different kinds of pipes, and I'm actually going to show you a better representation by use of introducing you to a new thing called the vat. And let's put that back. Reservoirs. Reservoir. Where do I want to put the reservoir? I'm gonna put the reservoir. I'll just park it right here. It's a bit of an eyesore, but that's okay. Boop. Get some water. The reservoir is 4 of these. Remember what you're doing. There we go. Quite clear glass or glass, either one. 2 things of fused quartz and a cauldron. Gets you 2 of those. So you do this twice, and you'll get 4 blocks. When you put them in a... I got spun around. Put them in a 2x2 like this. Put a couple of buckets of water, and it will actually become an infinite water source. Now, what I can do is I can run piping out of that into other machines that need water. And guess what? The vats need water. Now the vats, I'm going to show you how to make one of those. Electrical steel, cauldron, machine chassis, and a basic capacitor. Not real hard, but this thing uses a lot of power, so you're going to need some Stirling generators or a good backstock of power so this thing can do its job. Option number 2 is you can start making these things, advanced and basic photovoltaic cells. The basic photovoltaic cell is some energetic alloy, that's the tier 2 power conduit alloy, some fused quartz, silicon, electrical steel, and a daylight sensor. It's not bad. This does 10 RF per tick passive, nice and simple. This does 40 RF per tick, but as you can see, this is a little bit more expensive, a little bit more butch. Vibrant alloys, pulsating iron. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 ender pearls right there, plus at least another 6 ender pearls, I think, total. Some bad rudimentary math. There's about 6 ender pearls tied up in this whole thing. So that's not exactly cheap, but these things are great for 10 or 40 RF per tick power gen. But you want more, don't you? Yes, you do. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some pipes here. And no, not you. I want it down there. Put it down there. I'm going to connect it into all of these vats. There we go. And how do I want to see? I can't see the bottom of these machines to see if they're connected. Remember that conduit probe that I told you to make? Shift, right click. If there's only one connection that this thing has, it will show you that connection. If there's multiple connections, let me see if I can find one that's got multiple connections. Oh, gosh, oh golly gee. Nope. Nope. Nope, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, what you can do is you can shift right click on a piece of conduit. Any kind of conduit, power, liquid, whatever, and it will show you any of the connections. Now, if there are multiple connections, let's say if I actually had one of these over here, now all of a sudden that liquid conduit is connecting both ways. If I do shift right click, you see there's up, which is this, or west, which is that, which is very cool. That's just a shift right click on a square of conduit, and it's real nice and useful. So I can see that is connected, that is connected, that is connected, and that is connected. Now I'm actually going to put all of these as insert. Insert, did I do that one right? Yep. And we go insert. Oh, there we go. And insert. Okay, now if you get this thing and you give it a right click, you get that arrow, it's pushing water out automatically through that piping. All of these vats are getting filled up. That's cool. I like that. So now I can... I'm actually going to keep using some of that. Nope, some of that, actually. The vat can go back into its home. All of these are getting filled up. Every vat is the same as all the other I/O machines that you've seen. There is the configure screen for pushing and pulling out. I'm going to set these all to push. And then there's recipes for all this stuff. Hooch, rocket fuel, nutrient distillation, and firewater. 4 new fluids that did not exist before. And I think these things are awesome. There's that out arrow on top. This means I also get the chance to show you a new piece of equipment. We have the fluid tank and the pressurized fluid tank. The fluid tank and the pressurized fluid tanks basically behave exactly the same, except this is 16 buckets of liquid. This is 32, and this is blast resistant. So right there, blast resistant. So these two are now your new portable Ender IO fluid tanks. If you break it with a pickaxe, you can pick it back up and it will retain its liquid contents. It's very, very cool. And these things support, you notice, ins and outs with the wrench. Really, really cool stuff. By the way, you can use this wrench on the side of a capacitor bank. A lot of people don't know this. Shift right click. Is it? No, it's just right click. Never mind. Right click with the actual wrench. That's pulling power out only. That is blocking, so nothing will draw power, even if it's connected on that side. I think that's great. That's putting power in or putting items in. Because if you look now, these does actually have charging slots for items. And pulling items out or power out, whatever the case may be. It's really cool. I do love it. So now we have fluid tanks. What I'm going to do is put the pressurized tanks on top of these things. Right? Get a nice little lineup going here. These things are not real hard to make. Iron bars, and glass, right? The pressurized is dark steel, dark iron bars, and fused quartz. That's why it's blast resistant. It is tough butter. And let me think. We're going to need... Why can I not see it? Not the crafter. I do need to cover the crafter. Yeah, I'll cover the crafter in a minute. Now we have... Actually, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it up here and separate it out. There we go. Those things are not touching any of the pads. Combustion generator. Again, not real hard to make. This is a basic capacitor, basic gear, 2 reservoir blocks, which is interesting, machine chassis, and some electrical steel. That's not real elaborate stuff in the grand scheme of things. This is your advanced power generation. One of several, actually. The advanced power generation is all fluid-based. Now, if I remember right, I think I have been told that this is compatible with other burnable fuels at those equivalent rates. So it will burn build-craft oil or build-craft fuel at the rates that those are normally set to burn at in build-craft. Same for forestry fuels. I think it'll even work with some other stuff. So I think that's very cool. If there's something registered, I don't know if it's a word dictionary for fuel, I'm still learning some of this, but basically if it is declared as a kind of a fuel with specific burn rates in that mod, this may actually work with it, and it's real neat. So now we have all these things, right? What I'm actually going to do first is I'm going to set up some potatoes and some sugar in this, and it is going to kick to life. You see the reservoir over here on the left? It's filling this up drastically. This is changing and changing. You see the burn down here, and it's consuming power. It's consuming 20 RF per tick doing this. The bats are not upgradable. They are not, and I don't really see why they would be. I think it would be kind of imbalancing to be able to make fuel too fast. So, I think that's an okay thing. So now we have Hooch, and Hooch is being outputted to this tank, right? Now what I want to do is I want to get Hooch. I'm going to get a bucket of Hooch. I'm going to get my Ender IO. These are fluid conduits. These are Ender fluid conduits. Why is this important? Well, what I can do is I'm going to set this to extract only Hooch. Active without a signal. I can set this to extract. Let me think. I want to do... I'm going to break that for just a second. While I run this... Actually, I'm going to run it... I'm falling out of the world. I got to think about this for a second. I'm going to do it... actually... Oh, yeah, by the way, these things actually do have a UI. I think that's cool. Before I forget. I'm going to put that there, and we're just going to run it. Actually, this only needs to go to the back of the machine. I swear, I thought about all this ahead of time. I really did. Let's go down here. And so now, if I put this here, first of all, I don't want this connecting. Disable. See, that's now not connected anymore. I can put this here, there. And I'm just going to do it like this. And I'm going to make it so that's disabled. That's disabled. So now what I can do is I can set this specifically This is one of the cool things about... Oh, gosh. We keep right-clicking with the wrong thing. This is extract only, filter, Hooch, right? So now, Hooch is being pulled out of there, I think. And these machines should be getting... Oh. Silly me. These actually don't require water. So now what I've done is I have to shift right... Disable. This is why I have my handy dandy so now there's not water coming into those anymore, which means I should be able to get Hooch into... Why is water still going into that? Hang on a sec. See what I'm going to do? Just going to pull out the water. There we go. That solved the problem, albeit indirectly. Okay. One more time. There we go. Okay, so that one's filling up with Hooch. That one's filling up with Hooch. That one's filling up with Hooch. Why are we filling these up with Hooch? Hooch is the base fuel, and you can use it as a fuel. It's useful stuff. Oh, I actually don't need this one to fill up. I just remembered that. This is something else. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Okay. Cool. So Hooch is the base fuel for something called rocket fuel and other stuff called fire water. So, real simple recipes, basically. And you can see there's variability. Like, with Hooch, you don't have to use mushrooms. I used mushrooms and potatoes. Or no, mushrooms and raw flesh, zombie flesh. No, that's the other one, I'm sorry. I used sugar and potatoes, but you can use sugar and wheat, potatoes. You can do seed, all sorts of stuff. You see, all of that stuff, that is Hooch, right? You use Hooch and redstone and gunpowder to make rocket fuel, which is a different kind of fuel. Or you use Hooch and redstone to make, and redstone and blaze powder to make fire water. Now, these things are very, very different animals. Every single one of them. What we can actually do now, we can put batteries on top of those, because we're going to do another test. These things boop, boop, are basically generating now. See, this has a couple of buckets of rocket fuel. This has a couple of buckets of fire water. This is trying to generate enough Hooch to keep up with all of the rest of those. What I'm actually going to do... I have just remembered that I need... So now this machine should be getting filled up with water and nowhere else. Hooray! Oh, actually, don't want that filled up with water, but that's okay. We don't need that much of that stuff. It's okay. So now we have this weird setup going on, right? Hooch is being turned into fire, water, and rocket fuel. Why? Well, the reason is Atmo. Cannot type today. We now actually have all of these different kinds of fuel. We actually have Hooch. We have rocket fuel and fire water. What I can do, these things require coolant, i.e. water, right? And I'm just going to I'll show you how to correct that in just a moment. So now we have this coming over here. Just shift right click when we do that. If you see this connection point, this has already got fluid in it. This one didn't. That's why it didn't connect. It doesn't want to connect and then cause more trouble. So it decides to disconnect. Just get the side you want to connect. Right click with a wrench. That's it. I'm going to disconnect that. So now all of these things are being filled up with coolant. Go away, go away, go away. Every single one of them is being filled up with coolant. Yep, coolant. Coolant. These things have redstone controls, just like all the machines do. Same configuration. This configuration, though, is for fluid. So what we're going to do now is I have 1 bucket of hooch, 1 bucket of rocket fuel, and 1 bucket of firewater. What you'll see is these have different burn rates. And these will burn for a different period of time, depending. And they make different varying levels of energy. This only does 60 RF per tick. It uses water at a rate of 3 ticks per millibucket, I think it is. I think every 3 ticks it'll use 1 millibucket, basically. And this does 6 ticks. Basically, fuel lasts 6 ticks. I believe that is. Every millibucket will last 6 ticks. So this does 60 RF per tick. This does 160. But if you look at it, it's burning through water a lot faster. It only goes through the fuel a little bit faster, but it's burning through the water a lot faster. And, I'm sorry, the fuel is a little bit slower. Slightly. Takes a little bit longer for that fuel to burn, but it goes through water like crazy. This goes through water almost as bad, but the fuel lasts even longer. It's slow burning, but it only does 80 RF per tick. So what we're going to see is exactly how much power these are actually going to make for us over the course of the rest of this mod guide. Now, there is a third one that I have set up here. I've got water in it, and I've got some rotten flesh and some mushroom soup. Now, I am going to make something called nutrient distillation. Nutrient distillation. Those look an awful lot alike. I can tell the difference, but they do look a lot alike. Nutrient distillation is very, very interesting stuff. There's a bucket of it right there. Nutrient distillation bucket. So this is used. Oh, there's no shift info. This is actually used for 2 specific things that are actually made. Let's see. I actually don't think... Oh, I've got one right there. And I've got another one right there. This is your other source of power gen, okay? You start off using this coal... How is the coal generator doing? Let's say 1.78. Almost 1.8 million RF, and it's not even halfway through the stack of coal. That's pretty good. I think that's really, really good. Those things are slow burning, but they last a long time. And just think, if I actually put some upgrades in that, it would go even longer, which is great. So something to think about. Those are good, and this will get boosted. If I upgrade it, it'll get boosted to 80 RF per tick from 20 RF per tick. So those last really long. This does 60 RF per tick. It is a automatable fluid solution. A lot of people like that. This is rocket fuel. Yep. It does 160, but it goes through it, as you can see, only a little bit slower. This is the upgrade, basically. I see it. This does 80 RF per tick, but the fuel burns a lot slower. So, if I have my understanding of those numbers, that's how that works. The difference, my main difference is the rate at which they burn through the fuel and the rate at which they use water. Now, you can tell already this thing it's just crossed the halfway mark on its 1 bucket, 1,000 millibuckets. Just got down to 400. And as you can see right here, it's 600,000 RF. This is at 700, but it's only done 300,000. You see, there's differences. This has gone through almost all of it. Only 200 millibuckets left, and it is actually done 200,000, 270,000. So there's big differences in power gen here, but you do have another alternative. There's this wonderful thing called the zombie generator. That ender sword that you actually made that helps you get monster head drops so much more. Well, here's one of the 2 purposes for it. Zombie head, fused quartz, electrical steel, and a basic capacitor. You get this little thing. I'm putting one of those down. Does that have power in it? It does not have power in it. That is fabulous. I'm going to put that right there. It does generate actual power. And this thing uses nutrient distillation. Look at a nutrient tank. And you notice it's got I/O capability, redstone control. So what I'm going to do, I think it's 2 buckets, fills it up, and you'll start seeing some bubbling. That is the zombie head coming to life. You are actually using severed zombie heads as electrical power generation. I think that's hilarious. See? It's generating 80 RF per tick. If you look, this is a dynamo equivalent. And it'll go through a 1 millibucket lasts 10,000 ticks. It lasts a long time. You see? I'm still figuring this number out because I've never been good at these kind of, ticks per millibucket. 10,000 ticks per millibucket. Anyway, it's going through it pretty slow. It's not speeding through it. Once it actually fills up its internal power reserve, it'll stop consuming fluid, which is great. So you could actually use a vat with water as long as you've got a source, either a zombie farm or something like that, as a source for some of your power. You actually have a great alternative. That swings back around to number 2. Number 2 use for this stuff. I think it actually faces away. There we go. That's Killer Joe. Killer Joe is a zombie head, fused quartz, and some dark steel. What is Killer Joe? Killer Joe is a killer. Literally. I'm going to get myself a charged up ender sword. But we're going to wait. Why? Because I have 2 things I need to show you first. The powered spawner. Let me put those up. I'm going to put these over here. Let's grab a zombie spawner. And, by the way, when you have Ender IO loaded now, it will actually drop these when you break a spawner with a pick. You'll get a broken spawner part. So that means any vanilla spawner that you can actually find, blaze spawners, zombie spawners, cave spiders, spiders, skeletons, zombies. I think I said zombies 3 times. Anyway, you can get one of those, walk over to your handy-dandy anvil, and bounce a little bit. Spring in our step. Let's put this powered spawner and the broken spawner part. We get a zombie spawner. Hold down shift. Supply with power to activate. Upgrade with capacitors to increase the speed at which it spawns things. And the energy storage, which is cool. Now, I've got this thing that I need to actually power. How do I want to power it? Well, I've got this little thing sitting over here called a dimensional transceiver. You'll see it says owner. Oh, there's no localization on that. I'll tell them about localization. It says owner Vaygrim, public power 1. This thing has a certain chunk of power as an internal buffer. You can use this to send items, power, or fluids remotely. Public or private frequencies. I've got this set to public power 1. So what I'm going to do is I've got an extra right here. We're going to go over here, down to our little test island. And I'm going to put the powered spawner. I'm going to put this on top of it. And I'm going to set it to receive power from public power 1. Whoop, now we have a monster spawner. Oh yes, I forgot. They're burning in the daylight. Let's fix that for the poor zombies. Those guys will die. So now we have these zombies that are spawning. What do I want to do about it? Well, this is where Killer Joe comes in. Killer Joe, you right-click on him, give him a weapon. He requires a certain amount of nutrient distillation. And what I'm going to do is put a chest right on top of him. Let's power that guy up. And let's do push. So now he is going to start killing all... I actually should move him over. All the zombies are over here now. You know what? Let's move this guy. I'm gonna need another sword, but that's fine. I'm gonna put him right here. Give him that. Put a chest on top. And push out. Let's power him up. And what you'll see very quickly is the sword will wiggle, and the sword will wiggle, and he's going to start hacking away at the zombies. Get off. My domain. So now, suddenly, all these zombies have actually been killed. Well, I've got this chest up here and nothing's happening. Here is where the vacuum chest really comes into its own. Suddenly, all of this stuff gets taken care of for you. Killer Joe runs on nutrient distillation, which is great. And he does actually, if you notice, the weapon is taking damage for every hit. Damage taken. So you're going to have to repair these weapons. Do keep that in mind. And I do believe that it actually takes into account enchantments on the weapons, if I remember right. So yeah, if you have something with fortune, you can always put a fortune sword in there. Or looting, I'm sorry, looting, not fortune. Yeah, really, really cool. And you can use the enchanter for that. Now here's the thing. You've got all of this. You're actually making monster spawners. You can only have a spawner set up to spawn one monster at a time. It cannot. Oh, there it goes. I really should have fenced you guys off better. You can go into the pool with your buddies. Or just fall to your doom. Whichever. You see? Now he is drawing in. I'm going to back up. He's drawing in the experience. If the experience, I believe, is within a 5x4 area in front. Let's just solve this problem while we still can. We might have to just do multiples of these guys. So many zombies. So little time. There we go. If one Joe doesn't get him, the other one will. So, here we go. Well, here's where I do something very, very cruel. I'm going to turn the lights back on. It means you're going to start burning. But hey, problem solved. You can only do one kind of a spawner at a time. Okay, see, this is completely out of its fuel reserves. One bucket did 360,000 RF. One bucket of rocket fuel did 1.2 million. And one bucket of, let's see, that was Hooch, that was rocket fuel. This is firewater. One bucket of firewater actually did about 1.2 million. And it's still transferring power out. So yeah, that is very cool stuff. Where is that power coming from? I'm not sure. All these have stopped, and this seems to think that it is still generating power from somewhere. Anyway, this is probably some residual power being transferred from one to the other. These two basically generate roughly about the same amount of power. The difference is this is a little bit higher. This takes twice as long to do it. That's the only difference. So this one does less, of course. This one just generates more, but it generates it faster than this one. So these two end up being about the same. The difference is the amount of time, which I think is very cool. We've now got a back stock of Hooch that's being built up on these things. Oh, I forgot to. Let's do that. Start pushing all of that liquid out. Yeah, so very cool. We got a nice little setup. This is still going. Just hit the halfway point. 2 million RF. That's real impressive. So now, here's the thing, right? You've got all of this stuff, and you're starting to wonder what other conveniences does Ender.io actually have for you? Well, I'm standing on one. This is the travel anchor. Travel anchor is immensely useful. Now, here's the thing. You can right-click on this. You can set it to private, which means only the owner that placed the block can use it. Protected, and you set a combination of items in here. If I do protected, or I could do that. Somebody's going to have at least one emerald and one slime ball in order to use it, which I think is very cool. Or public. Anybody can use them. And then you have a symbol up here that you can change. Let's blank that out and put, let's say, a slime ball. So now, if I stand on these, oh, that's slime ball. That's helmet. And that's feather. Nice. Easy to identify. I really like these things. You just stand on one. They don't require any power. You stand on one, and you look at the other ones, and you can jump. Press the space bar, and you jump back and forth. Hello, Clay. You can go over there. So now, there's another tool that goes in line with that. 2 more, actually. There's the travel anchor. That is some conduit binder, iron, and then you have a pulsating crystal, which is diamond surrounded by pulsating iron. It's real easy to do. Here's this wonderful tool called the Staff of Travel. We're going to get into the Staff of Travel in the final part of my Ender.io mod guide series. I'll see you on the other side.